So, for today's episode of the podcast, it's just a random topic, really. It's not very timely, I don't think so, but let's talk about mental health. So, during my high school life, it was quite tough for some reason, maybe due to puberty, but yep, I struggled with mental health and I considered myself as well as through not really clinical diagnosis, but I used online diagnosis and standardized testings, even by psychologists. And by those metrics, I was depressed for like 3 years. Um, Personally, during those times, I had very good physical activity. Mostly, if there was a factor that may have been something to contribute to depression, aside from bad family environment due to some things, maybe it would be the sleep. I'm not really sure if the sleep for those years I was sleeping only 3 hours, maybe sometimes 6 hours, and then on the weekends I would sleep like more than 12 hours or around 12 hours, something like that. So yeah, it was very inconsistent. But basically, I'm not really sure if it was the depression causing the sleep issues, maybe causing the insomnia, or just the desire to stay awake. Because during those times, I had this weird obsession, maybe due to the death of my grandfather and news of death around me, that I had this frame of mind that hey, it was you only live once, and that was also during the time where you only live once was very very prominent in society. Many people kind of adhered to it quite a bit, and yeah, I really stuck to that, and I just said, if I could live more hours during the now, what's the difference of living it some other day? Yeah, it wasn't, puberty sucks. Well, anyway, I did consider myself depressed during those times. It was very hard. I was so unstable. Bad thoughts. I think it's normal during puberty, and a lot of social pressure along those lines. Bad romance. Basically, it was a very, 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 very long unrequited love for. It actually extended above the 3 years of depression, but during the last 2 years, it was a lot better because I somehow got out of the funk, and yeah, I I was very very keen on researching about it, and I'm very keen on researching a lot of things, especially those that bother me or make me curious. And one of my findings was for countries in the northern poles, where you would have long nights, long days, and the suicide rate would go up, as well as the depression rate would go up around the times when there's long nights, or just times when, even if it's a long day, there wasn't enough sunlight. So the association of that study, and apparently, from what I remember from the article that time, Scandinavian countries, or the countries that had these long days and nights, they, what do you call this? They made changes that they would prescribe vitamin D because they had an inkling, or it was mostly an experiment on a certain populace, that maybe vitamin D had something to do with depression. And apparently, after those changes and vitamin D supplements were like tried on that population, the suicide and depression rates went down. So I got myself on um I got my hands on some vitamin D. I regularly bought it and regularly consumed it, and to be honest with you, I think personally I still use it now. A lot of years after. I think it personally does work, and I think depression, suicide, I while it's not the sole case, I think it really plays a huge part of regulating human emotion. And basically, after the vitamin D supplementation, I was just that much more stable, and I already noticed that as well, which is why I was more convinced, because during sunnier days or days where I would get more sun, the healthy kind of sun, not the, well, technically it does include the very very bad sun during midday, but basically when I get more sun, I'm more happy, my mood is more stable, and when I would sleep in and then wake up late into the day, and I wouldn't get any sun, and that was over a few days. Sometimes during vacation, my mood would be so erratic, and during these days, don't get me wrong, it's not an issue with exercise. I usually play basketball for a few hours during after the sun goes down, around 4 to 5 p.m. up to 6 p.m. And so it wasn't really exercise that was the issue. I also had good social life back then, so that's not the issue as well. Support system, it wasn't that bad, but from a support system's perspective, it was very inconsistent, and they didn't really line up with my depressive days. So I concluded that vitamin D was a very, very big help in that department. So I still continue vitamin D supplements to this day. So yeah, if somebody out there maybe needs some mental help, it's not a surefire way, but most of the people I've talked to that have suffered from this don't find the medical, I'm sorry, I mean the medicine prescribed by psychologists and doctors to be that effective, aside from managing their symptoms, but doesn't really address the root. But basically, I also found out that depression is worse and instability is worse during times when you don't get enough of some vitamins. It's a very specific, but basically, the more your body is balanced, the more you have a semblance of homeostasis, like a good balance of vitamins to go around, which makes you feel even better about yourself. Your muscles don't feel weak, you feel energetic, you tend to feel more emotionally stable. That's another one that I found out. The more energetic you feel, it usually correlates to your mood. Because when you're depressive, you're usually low on energy. At least that was the case for me and some other people that I've talked to. No, not talked, sorry. Fuck. English is not my first language. Talk to. Yeah, that's the past tense. Well, anyway, so that's that. Just basically seek to those who are struggling. Just seek to be the most complete you can, have a balance of everything you can. If you don't have a support system, try to fix your lifestyle first. Um, I guess if you think about it, if you get your lifestyle gets better, you're able to be more stable, especially in a social setting, and chances are you'll get more friends or get more help, or you'll be able to communicate better with your family members or potential support systems. So I guess it helps in that regard. So I guess for this podcast, that's it for now. I'll probably talk about mental health at another time, but for this podcast episode, I think that'll do for now. It's around 11 minutes at this point. So I guess like and subscribe, guys. Thank you for listening, and thank you and bye.